The entire claim that God had to allow an innocent person to suffer and die in order to forgive humanity rests completely on the doctrine of original sin. Yet when we actually trace that doctrine through the texts instead of assuming it, we find that Genesis itself only says that Adam sinned. Adam was punished, and Adam became mortal. Dust you are, and to dust you shall return, Genesis 3:19, without ever stating that Adam's guilt or sin was transferred to his descendants. While the Hebrew Bible explicitly rejects inherited guilt by stating the son shall not bear the guilt of the father, Ezekiel 18:20, and each one shall be put to death for his own sin, Deuteronomy 24:16, grounding moral responsibility in individual action rather than ancestry. At the same time, the same scriptures repeatedly show God forgiving directly without sacrifice or blood. As when David repents and is told, "The Lord has taken away your sin," 2 Samuel 12:13. When Nineveh repents and God relents from punishment, Jonah 3:10. And when God himself declares, "I desire mercy, not sacrifice," Hosea 6:6, and "You do not delight in sacrifice," Psalm 51:16-17, which already undermines the idea that forgiveness is mechanically tied to death. The doctrine of original sin is then largely constructed from Paul's argument in Romans, especially Romans 5:12, "Through one man's sin entered the world, and death through sin." Yet even here the text explicitly says death spread to all, not that legal guilt was transferred, making inherited guilt an interpretation rather than a clear statement, while the verse often quoted to make blood an absolute requirement. Without the shedding of blood there is no forgiveness, Hebrews 9:22. Explicitly limits itself by saying according to the law and almost everything, tying it to the Mosaic ritual system rather than placing a metaphysical constraint on God's power to forgive. Most decisively, Jesus forgives sins openly before any crucifixion occurs. "Your sins are forgiven," Mark 2:5. And the objection raised is, who can forgive sins but God alone? Rather than, where is the sacrifice? Showing that forgiveness was understood as a divine prerogative rather than a transaction requiring prior violence, which means that the crucifixion only becomes logically necessary once original sin is assumed first. And once that assumption is questioned on textual grounds, the claim that God could not simply forgive no longer stands as a biblical necessity, but as a later theological construction built to support the cross rather than demanded by the texts themselves.